Welcome back to The Ballad of Dena and Andrea, a podcast showcasing songs and conversations in reaction to the story of Andrea Yates and Dena Schlosser, two women who murdered their children in the early 2000s. I wrote an album based on their story in the style of Appalachian murder ballads to create empathetic myths about these mothers. And with this podcast, I've been able to sit down with friends to talk openly about issues that come up from these songs, like religion, mental health, misogyny, our failing justice system, motherhood, grief, and more. Each episode, I'll tell a bit of the story, bring in a friend to chat, and share a song. Please note, in this podcast, we will discuss postpartum psychosis and depression, domestic abuse, suicide, infanticide, and religious zealotry. Please take care of yourself while listening. Also note, when I use the word women, I aim to include anyone who has identified as a woman, female, or femme at any point in their journey. Okay, here we go. I think one of the first images that made me actually sob when researching these women's stories was an image taken surreptitiously of Dena. It is a picture of her working at Walmart. Here she is, a poor woman in Texas who had served her time and was getting her life back together. She was on mandatory birth control, on her meds. She wasn't working with kids. She was doing her part. She had been held accountable and was following the rules. But that isn't the sad part, because someone decided to take her picture with their phone, took that picture, and another woman sold Dena out. A newscaster put this picture of her on the local news. Dena was fired from Walmart hours later. But because someone richer and better off and safer than Dena decided to put her name on television, she couldn't even have a job at Walmart. She couldn't own her own life, her own mistakes, her own redemption. She may as well go back in. And she did in 2017. And as of this writing, that's where she is now.
1, 2, 3, 1.
I did all the work, but have nothing to show. I gave a life, but I didn't let it grow. I gave up, but Dena no more. Gonna get out of here and get myself a job. Get out of here and get myself a job. A little place to go to and a little place to come from. Get a little piece of everybody else's humdrum. I'm not giving up. Listen to my doctors, taking all the stuff they tell me to. I can't work with kids even though that is what I used to do. I can understand, it's just that I need to learn something new. I'm not giving up. I got me a job at the Walmart in Terrell. I started making almost $10 an hour. I was coming up, Dena Schlosser no more. After a month or two, somebody saw me. Then some reporter put my face on the TV and gave me up. They said, Dena, no more. Now I got no job and I can't afford the payments for the meds and bills. I've used up all my family's handouts. John has up and left me, but I knew that I could handle that. I'm not giving up. Served my time and I've nothing to show. I did the crime, but they won't let it go. I'm so fucked up, Dena no more. 2017, I walked the streets. It was late at night, it was too late for me. They picked me up, free Dena no more. My guest for this episode is my good friend and comedian, pottery artist, showrunner, Eliza Skinner. We talk about bad women, cultural fables, listening to our butts and guts, that's her term, and, turns out she maybe should have been a Unitarian minister.
Like if you went into your favorite coffee shop that you go to all the time, and you noticed somebody there who you thought had done a pretty horrifying thing, who had paid their time for it and everything, but you were like, what? In my steamy creamers? They're here?
So it was the person who named the coffee shop that did the
exactly.
deal.
This is my spot. And he's just hanging out here. People need to know about. And also, like, the person who posted it, did they, like, forward that to CNN?
Yes.
Or were they... Oh.
They sent it to the news, and then the news put it on.
Yeah.
That's how it spread.
Okay.
And it was 2004, so it would have been like before
Twitter.
everybody.
Okay. It's 2004, and you're sitting at Steamy Creamers. You're like, oh no, I see a man.
Let's pick, if Woody Allen was at my Steamy Creamers.
Okay, Woody Allen's at your Steamy Creamers working there.
You know what? I might be okay because...
Really? Your Steamy Creamer, not a Steamy Creamers you walked into.
But like,
yours
that I owned?
You go in there every morning. You're like, hey, Catherine.
I probably wouldn't go
Jess.
back.
And you wouldn't even tell, would you tell your friends?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you be outraged?
Fucking Woody Allen. Yeah, no, because I'd be like, haha, he works at Steamy Creamers now. Not that it's bad to work at a Steamy Creamers, but
it's a step down from Oscar winner.
Being a cultural mouthpiece, right?
Yes, yeah. So if you went to, like, if you knew somebody at the local news and you saw that, and you saw him working at your Steamy Creamers,
that wouldn't be my instinct to tell someone at the news.
It wouldn't be my instinct either. That's fair. But my instinct would be to rant. I would be big time ranting. I would be like, I did not consent.
I just feel like
Now, if I walked past where he or she or whoever, just mowing their lawn, just eating a little sandwich, just whatever.
But how do you get lawns to mow and eat sandwiches? You have to make money somehow.
That's true, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't work. I'm just saying I feel like it's almost like a parasocial relationship with locations.
Okay, I totally see this.
That people are like, that's my spot.
So you could see someone being like, she's here in my space.
Yeah.
But it's not her space.
You know who I feel like is super at fault here? Mm-hmm. Whoever took the photo from the person who took it, whoever at the news station was like, yep, this is newsworthy. That's the thing.
Yes.
I think I think that is a problem over and over and has grown so huge with the 24-hour news cycle and cableification of news, is that our idea of something being newsworthy or not has completely eroded.
Exactly.
My number one example of that, now I'm going to forget her name, but remember that lady who was denying gay people marriage licenses, like probably like 8 years ago, something like that. And it was a huge story. It got really a lot of attention. And I was like, man, I can't believe all these people were not allowed to marry because of this one chick. I used chick because I was trying not to use a more offensive term. I was like,
sometimes
this bag of bones. Don't say that. Call her a chick. I don't know. Anyway, so I was like, oh, this is really awful that these people's right to get married got taken away by this one lunatic. And then I looked into it, and anybody who'd wanted to get married got married. She was not able to not give people marriage. She was like, I don't want to do it. And they were like, okay, well, you don't get to work then. Go home and figure out your banana brain.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and give these people licenses.
Yeah.
And when I found that out, I was like, wait, why is this newsworthy then? Because to me, that story getting big, if I was a gay person, a part of the group that was targeted towards, I would feel terrorized by that.
Yeah.
I would feel like, oh my gosh, people are way more against me and out for me than I know, and the systems
with no protections
that I think are protecting me aren't protecting me. Mm-hmm. When in fact, that's not the case. And I feel like that's part of that pendulum that gets swung harder and harder and harder.
It's swung harder now, so much so that the cake that
got brought as a whole.
It's a Supreme Court case.
Yeah, about a website, a potential website being built for someone who like has never even had the work.
Right.
But she's like, if I learned how to make websites, I don't want to have to make them for gay people getting married.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So not only is it not newsworthy, but definitely not Supreme Court worthy.
No,
and isn't even sponge worthy. You know what I'm saying? Don't
Does it
fuck
have a
that
soggy
case.
bottom? Sponge, really? Oh my God, that took me way too long. I was like, sponge cake. Nope, sponge. Got it.
Should Elaine
Reproductive
have sex
justice.
with that cake or not? Even people getting upset online, like quote unquote canceling people. When I got on TikTok, I was like, oh boy, it's the Wild West here. Because at that point, some bumper guards had been added to TikTok, not officially, unfortunately, but like just socially. Like, you don't dox people. Like, that's bad. I got on TikTok and all these people were like righteously doxing people. And were like, that is, and like, you know, they would find a clip of somebody doing something shitty out in the world, and then somebody would be like, I found out who that person is and where they work, and here it is, and you can call them, and this is where they live, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, this seems bad.
Yeah.
And eventually that has come around and is now frowned upon, but largely, but not entirely. There's still people who are like, yeah, do it, go for it.
Vigilante justice. Yeah. Everybody wants to try.
And I'm like, wait. We've lost the thread. That makes sense because people are like, I'm holding them to account. That's great. If that is somebody who is in a position of power in any way or like influence, like if we're talking about somebody who is someone's boss or, like I said, like has a pulpit or has even a podcast,
some
anything.
platform. Yep.
Yeah. Or some platform, some amount of actual power. Yeah, hold them to account. But if it's just some ding dong doink doing something crappy, it becomes, I hate to use an overused term, but like a witch hunt. Yeah. Everyone must be perfect and awesome all the time. Like,
and you won't be. Nobody will be.
And I'm not saying that there's like no gulf between shitty and perfect.
Right.
I'm not saying, well,
that's
if
what we're
you're
saying.
shitty, it just means you're not perfect. Like, no.
Right.
I'm saying that there's like all kinds of room in there. And sometimes a regular person does a small fuck up and does not need to be
the whole internet to know.
Exactly. The people within arm's length, sure, hold that person to account. But to run somebody down for that kind of stuff is like, no. And I think that is, I'm going to guess, kind of your, like the same tree that the branch of your point with this would come from. That like, do not seek someone out, run someone down to pay the price for something that receipt is already all taken care of. That bill is paid. It's we dropped it last night in the box in the little sealed envelope with the zipper. At this point, anybody listening is already like, she's a fascist or something. People fuck up.
Yeah.
And I think that we've become really binary on like good and bad, as far as like qualifying people as good and bad. Like, you're a good person or you're a bad person, and your opinions and beliefs are good or they are bad. There is no like, oh, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't understand where you got to.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, I think that if we focused more on that, I truly believe in my naive little heart that we as a species of animals would understand each other a lot better and get along a lot better if we could say, I understand you being scared about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I don't understand where that fear led you.
Right. And it is okay for us to not understand the final act or the bad day, right? Because if we really understood that, we probably wouldn't be doing very well.
Yeah, exactly.
But like to understand that one action is not your whole life.
Yeah. And to relate to like, not to jump right to your best friend, this woman that you loved who cut off her baby's arms. Is this?
That, yes,
yeah. Who you are super into. It was like a religious fervor thing, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so it had been building for years and months. She had postpartum depression and then had tried to kill herself and had postpartum psychosis and...
all the fun different postpartums.
Yeah, right?
You know, it's like a new one comes up every day.
Oh, yeah, just worse and worse.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to not have kids some days.
Oh, boy.
Actually, every day, but, you know. Not for just that reason.
Let's list them. No, I'm kidding.
Let's...
I double canceled now.
Well, I pushed her into that cancel, so I pushed her into that one.
Hey, I didn't cut off a baby's arms, so
hey, good job.
Cancel me all you want. I'll still get a job at Walmart.
And you'll be able to keep it. She was very much in the throes of postpartum psychosis, sparked by religious content and taken off her meds by her church and her husband.
Cool.
Yeah, really great. Yeah.
Was that church Scientology?
No.
It was another anti-postpartum support church.
Really?
You remember all that stuff with Tom Cruise and Brooke Shields?
No.
Or yeah, she talked about, I believe her depression was postpartum, and she talked about being on antidepressants. And she was doing a book tour at the same time he was on like some tour for something. And so I believe I was on the Today Show or one of those maybe Good Morning America. I don't know.
I don't want to.
But yeah, he made some comment about how, he doesn't believe, because they don't believe in psychiatry at all. But yeah, and made some comment about Brooke Shields, like that she shouldn't be on antidepressants or that nobody should take it, and she had just been on, so it was like an insinuate. I'm not a news source, is the thing.
Right. Oh, either am I. And I have told the listeners repeatedly, this is not a documentary.
Okay.
This is like, this story's really intense and it leads to a lot of conversations. Yeah. That's what.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to be flippant about saying a baby with their arms cut off, but
that's this part.
Exactly.
It's so awful.
I either can't talk about it or you got to talk about it and be like, wow, look at these eggshells. They are smashed up.
I'm just walking all over.
The only way the egg part gets out.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty deep, right?
The egg part gets out.
Where's my Etsy shop? I want that on a Stanley Cup.
What comes up for you when you hear bad woman or bad women? What comes up for you? What images, what media images, what sort of like, who do you see getting called bad women?
Well, unfortunately, a little bit of the whole like nasty woman thing comes up, which is just cringe, I think. The like, oh, I'm in on the joke and it makes me powerful. No, that's my pumpkin spice latte. Like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then it also makes me think sort of a faster pussycat kill kind of vibe. Are you familiar?
Not familiar enough to know actual. Oh no, you
Becky, you're gonna
listeners.
love this
her
movie. You're gonna scrap this whole podcast and start one that's just about that.
Faster Pussycat Kill.
Yeah.
I love the name.
Okay, so it's about, like, I'm not going to be able to go through the whole... Okay. First of all, if anyone has followed me here from any other podcast, this is the fun moment that I do in podcasts where I describe a movie to someone that they've never seen.
Oh,
someone
great.
pointed out to me before,
Oh, no.
Some listener pointed out to me, like, hey, you do that a lot. And I'm like, fuck, I can't stop doing it. Because I interpret the world through our modern parables, which are movies and TV. So.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's my problem. I'm like, not murder ballads? People don't do that anymore? Well, I'm doing it here.
Hey, you're giving people a whole new wing of the library.
It's small and it smells bad, but...
It's about this guy who gets like, or is it a couple, whatever. The big thrust, the headline, what you're gonna like, is this like roadster gang of huge women. Just like Amazonian, very tall, giant-breasted,
yes,
tough girls who like are mocking and they're mean and they're like, really withering, and the guys in it are just like, oh yes, mommy, and they're like, you're disgusting, and they're like all cool with like the Betty Page bangs, and they're like a rockabilly cartoonish version of what a bad woman would be.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And a lot of the takes on the movie have been, it's like sexualizing women too much and it's gross, and like clearly the filmmaker is like just horny for them, and I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Like people are horny sometimes and people are sexualized sometimes. In these ladies are completely in charge of it, and I think it's real fun. I think it's a real blast.
A real blast. It sounds like a delight.
Yeah.
And something
They're
probably...
like hot bullies.
Yeah. And in my like mid-20s, late 20s, I would have been like, I probably would have been on board with the people being like, that's not how women really are.
I suppose we should look at their boobs. Like,
right. And now that I'm in my...
Rather than pretend like they're not there? Yeah, those boobs are intimidating. Look at these guys be intimidated by them. Ha ha! Power.
Yes, boobs are good. You don't have to hide your boobs.
Yeah. And like, oh gosh. I mean, remember all the like ideas, especially within comedy, of like, well, I just don't like it if like women like use their attractiveness or their like sexuality. Like, oh, okay, so if I don't use it as a performer, what do I do? Shove it in the bottom of a garbage can and be like, nobody look in there. Like, what are you talking about? You get to use your fingers and toes. Well, how come I don't get to use all my parts?
Yes. No, and that is honestly, it exactly wraps around to like how...
Cutting off our... Oh, wait.
No, to like... Dick. No, to the like being in charge of women's bodies and just being like, you cannot use... Okay, Dena's husband spanked her because it's okay in the Water of Life Ministries to spank women and children in like with a wooden spoon in the middle of a parking lot.
I'm already like, this is probably not useful, but I'm already getting in the head of some imaginary listener being like, well, you know, if you believe that kind of crazy religious stuff, that's on you. But if you have never believed something stupid for at least the course of a TikTok, like if you've never experienced like the seed of a stupid belief, you're a big fat liar.
You're a big fat liar.
You know what? That's not fair. You're an any size liar. But you're a liar, a despicable liar. How about that? Okay. How about that? A beautiful, big-boned, but despicable for completely different reasons liar.
Good save.
Thank you.
Save.
I just want to only hurt the people I want to hurt, not accidentally hurt the people I don't mean to hurt. You know what I'm saying? That's my goal with speech.
Oh, God. I know. I so hear you.
But like we talked about before, we got taught all these things, fed all these things as children. And like, yeah, I got some bad lessons from Garfield. And I have to reconcile that and be like, I can love Garfield, but I can also acknowledge I shouldn't necessarily repeat
everything
phrases that you might have said.
Yes.
That's not okay.
Yeah. But that, yes, the wraparound of the being in charge of women's bodies, being in charge of their, like that internalized misogyny that we have. Like, well, I'm just going to take that away then. So I'm a blank slate.
I'm just a blob.
I'm a blob, yeah. And man, I mean, it's only because I'm so fucking horny in my mid-40s that I am flipping back around to like, oh, you're right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I should show these off now that I'm kicking them down the street.
Well, yeah, and it's like you can't help but there's a weird thing that, you know, the socialization of men I've often been in the situation where I feel like someone has taken some part of my body as a communication to them.
Yes.
Like I wrote an essay once called I Did Not Put My Tits On For You. Like, well, it would
screw 'em on.
Like, I've kind of felt like that. Like, well, why would you put your tits on for this meeting?
Oh my God.
This is supposed to be an important business meeting. You're the one who decided to wear tits to it. Like, you know what? They're just there. They're just there. And I can only shroud them so much. Not that like they're going to think that I'm like real stacked. I'm not. But I do have boobs, and like it doesn't mean they didn't appear because they wanted you to notice them.
Right. It's just a woman's body walking through the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also a weird thing where I have had experiences where it seems like their attraction to me that I did not solicit, they take as some sort of communication from me. Mm-hmm. Like as though, oh, well, you made me hot for you.
Yes. Dude, this pastor of water... Oh, my God. I'm like sputtering. I'm
like,
so excited.
Why are you suddenly saying you don't want me to buy you a drink? You just made me hot for you. Why'd you open the conversation? Well, I didn't. I just stood here in my clothes and my body.
You're a daughter of Eve. All women are descendants of Eve, and that makes you evil, and it makes you witches.
No. It makes me cool as hell, exactly. Friends with snakes, and you're just jealous. That's the problem.
Exactly.
I have a question for you.
Oh, please, yes. What?
Do you feel any concern about empathizing with the subjects of your songs rather than just telling their stories? From what I have heard, you empathize with them even more than you tell their stories in the songs. Mm-hmm. Do you feel some kind of way about that? Like, does that concern you at all? Or like, is there a limit to it or what?
I've really wondered about that myself. And just, I want to be really clear about this because this is the question that will get. Oh, no, but it always made sense to me to feel that way for these women. I just felt very much a part of like the kids are gone. The kids have been mourned, and it is fucking awful, and it is so sad. But there's something about the myth of these women, that they're these monster women, and how can these mothers kill their kids? And I go, I don't ever want to have kids. So there's a little part of me that's like, how would you not want to every day? And then like
real dark, right off the bat.
right? But then also like, of course they didn't want to do this. So what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
I was also working with incarcerated youth at the time and just really wanting to explore the idea of empathy and restorative justice, and like, how are we going to change any of these institutions if we can't look at people as human beings? And then it became about their religious backgrounds and all of these circumstances leading up to this event of the killings, which was, in my opinion, really preventable at very many different steps in their lives. And so it's more of it's a fable, it's a myth.
Cautionary tales.
Yeah. I think that's the answer today. Follow up to it. Is that enough? No.
Yeah, no, I that makes sense. I mean, I thought of it the first time when I was introducing you, playing your murder ballad, and we were in a show that I felt a little rushed, so I was just like, "It's Becky doing her thing." There we go. And you told the audience that you were singing a song about Andrea Yates, and then sang it, and I felt bad I hadn't given them more context. I haven't given the audience the context of like, these are murder ballads. This is what she's going to do. And now you can process it, that she's not just like, I just write a whole bunch of songs about Andrea Yates. Like, I'm a Yates head.
I'm a Yates head.
Like,
oh my God.
And so I was like, oh man, I did her a disservice by not teeing her up.
Oh, and I didn't say it either. Sometimes I tell the story, sometimes I don't. But that's funny because I don't care. I kind of am like, listen to this story and feel what you want to feel.
Yeah, I do think that like, you've done such a good job in the songs of putting a frame around it, like making this a gallery show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I think that the whole thing deserves that also, of being like, P.S., you're in a gallery right now.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
We're looking at
these people. I'm now showing you through the lens of this Americana tradition that you may not be aware of. I'll just tell you it exists. You can do whatever other work you want.
Right.
But also, I have decided that they deserve this.
Yeah.
And you do the rest, audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's interesting to have that, like, I've decided that they deserve empathy, and here's my song about it. Like, just being that clear. But.
Well, and also that I think it's cool and important that it's part of a tradition.
Yeah.
That it's part of a, like, this is how we tell these stories. They have meant enough to our communities, and our, like you're saying, like, as fables.
Yeah.
That I'm including these ones.
Yeah. These are the problems of our time.
These are the train tunnels caving in.
Yeah. This is the women being thrown into the river. I mean, that's still happening too, but
yeah.
Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
Why do you think we love hating women?
Well, wait, why do you and I love hating women?
No, we culturally. Because we're bad bitches.
Okay.
Right, because we've been told from the day we popped out to hate other women. That's why we hate women and ourselves, because...
Yes. And each other.
And each other, yes.
Clearly.
We're just shivving each other.
Stop it. It tickles. I mean, people hate women, I think, because... capitalism.
I know,
but seriously,
but it's all that big, right? It really is. It's like because Jesus, because capitalism. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of control. I think that the patriarchy and capitalism, which are like sewn up together, like to be successful, you need to crush other people, and that is important for masculinity. And the only thing that the thing that weakens that is empathy and feeling, and those are feminine things, and women will inspire those. And if you're a straight cis man, feelings about a woman can awaken and inspire those things. And God damn it, why is she making me feel that way? And I mean, I think that it hating women hinders and ruins all of our lives.
Yeah.
It obviously terrible for women, very bad for men too.
Exactly.
Men are miserable. They are angry and so sad. I always think, somehow the emotions were divided, and like they gave anger to men, and everything they is, whoever. And it's, in my imagination, a big giraffe. It was like men get it's patriarchy and capitalism. Men get the anger, women get everything else. So all other emotions for men gets filtered through and expressed through anger.
Yeah.
And our anger, we cry. Like when you get that's the as women, I'm so mad.
That's what I'm
crying.
Yeah.
And I think that all that male anger is so many other things that they're not allowed to, and therefore have not been trained to identify or express or soothe in any way. In a sense, it's almost like if those things are what's making these people hurt this much, and then they look at us and we have a wealth of that, of feelings and talking and soothing, then that divides us all even more, even more of a gulf. It's just a big time bummer.
Yeah.
That we can't just share everything. And as I said, relate to the starting points, but the starting points are so vulnerable. The starting points are all like what I'm scared of.
Oh, gotcha.
What I hope for and will be crushed if I don't have.
Yeah.
Like we can understand those things in each other, but then the paths those lead us down, we don't understand all the time. But once you understand why, those beginnings, then it makes it less foreign and nonsensical. It's not like, well, you're doing these terrible things because you're just an irrational hate machine. No, you're doing it because
you're scared, or
you're scared and you're hurt.
Yeah.
And you're scared of being hurt more. And
or your literal neurons and chemicals in your brain are giving you hallucinations.
But even those, it's not, I don't believe that any of these, even psychoses, are like, hey, it's never God showing up and being like, hey, bro, cool hair. Listen, it would be dope if you did murder. No big whoop, though. It's like, you have to do this.
Right. It's an imperative. It's going to save your kids.
It's going to save you. It's going to save the world. It's going to, you should be really scared. And I have the imaginary thing of the one answer.
Yeah.
For what, and we should be able to relate to some part of that.
Yep.
And find the common humanity in that.
Yeah. Did you grow up religious?
Interesting question. Sort of.
Kind of also boring.
Well, no, I grew up, I began my elementary school in an Episcopalian private school just for a few years. I sang in a choir of an Episcopalian school next door to my house. But the church I went to was a different church, and I was voracious about going. I would wake my parents up and on Sunday mornings be like, it's time for Sunday school. And they'd be like, what's the matter with you? Why do you want? And I'd be like, you gotta take me. But that church was a Unitarian Universalist church. So I was like a devout Unitarian Universalist, which is kind of like being a devout, I like going to the science museum person. Yeah. I'd be like, we have to go. We're going to learn about crystals and dinosaurs. And then they're going to tell us a parable from the Bible, and I'll understand why it's universal and or contradicted by a different parable. We were debunking the Bible half the time. Yeah. And then we were also learning things as kind of fables. I mean, I do wish, in theory, we were supposed to be learning a lot of different religious texts and the way that they cross over and the commonalities mostly, but also, I guess differences. But it would always kind of zero back to the Bible because it was written in Virginia, But very into Unitarian Universalist. It's the liberal arts BA of religions. Okay. Where it's like, this is one way you could think about it. Or what if you played with a different kind of thought? And then let's hear the children's choir sing the theme to Laverne and Shirley. We did that. I was in that choir also.
Oh, that's delightful. Yep. I loved singing in church.
Give us any chance, we'll take it. but give us any rule, we'll break it. We're going to make our dreams come true. Like, that's the kind of bullshit that I learned there and love about myself. Because I'm like, yes, I can find meaning in the stupidest things.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, you didn't learn that sex was bad and women.
Did I tell you about the sex ed that we had there?
No.
Okay, so at my church, and I don't know if this is all Unitarian churches, but it was like famous at my church because, I had the older sister, so you knew what was coming down the road, that every 2 years they would have an intense sex ed program for the kids of like 2 grades worth of kids. And you learned everything. And you discussed everything. And like every day they had those, write down a question that you're scared to ask out loud and put it in the box, and then we're going to ask them all. 2 things stuck with me the most from that. One was we talked about music, and they were like, bring in a song that is about sex or love, and we'll talk about it. And one of the ones that our teachers, who were a couple who divorced soon after. So sad. But they were cool. One of the songs that they brought in was Cecilia by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence. And like she leaves the bed, then she comes back and they're like, yeah, sometimes ladies are like, bye. And the guy is the one who's pining in the bed. And then like women can have their freedom and you shouldn't assume. We don't need to assume or count on women to be like the stable and wanting. The home one. They also brought in Lola. But yeah, it was very no holds barred, very not sexy or lascivious, and also very not scary. Because it was like a group of us. And we were the same group that had like been coming up and, learning about crystals and dinosaurs for years together. So
Why were you learning about crystals?
Okay, maybe not crystals. Definitely dinosaurs. We talked about dinosaurs a lot. And we talked about slavery a lot, but that's probably being in the South, too, where I'm sure there were adults who were like, we got to make sure we get these messages through.
Yeah.
This is going to be important.
Wow, that's fascinating. I don't think we ever talked about sex in church, except when we were kids and trying to like find a place during the lock-in to make out. And make out mean like hold hands. It wasn't very
Yeah.
naughty.
Yeah, make out for the Lord.
Yeah.
What kind of religion? What
Under his eye. What? No. Oh my God. And exactly. I grew up Lutheran in Minnesota, so it's like.
So that's just like having a Minnesota driver's license.
Exactly.
That's what I learned from Prairie Home Companion.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But even that, his Lutheranism was more Lutheran than my. Like, so much of it is very just like church light.
Well, that's one of the main. I mean, not to proselytize you, but that is one of the main tenets of Unitarian Universalism, is that. You
can go to the Vikings game. Go ahead and leave early.
Yes.
Sorry.
No. That we as humans keep making religious communities. Our cultures always have some sort of once a week, we get together, or every time the moon is like this, we get together, we sit around the fire, we say these words, we sing these songs, we do these things, and then we have some coffee and bagels. And that's
we want community, we want ritual, and we want to break bread and be at table with each other.
And think about these larger questions that we don't have answers to about the world. But the other Unitarian Universalist thing is we all need that. But for me to be able to tell you what you should be thinking, or that what I think is more right than whatever you think, or even assume that I know truly what you're thinking and feeling in your head about these things, is all bananas. Mm-hmm. Everybody can have their own, like, we're going to throw out some clay on the wheel. What pot you make, that's on you, and we're not going to judge it. Because you're taking it home to your house, not mine.
I'm literally learning this now. There was plenty of Unitarian churches, or there was one big Unitarian church in Mankato, and it was always like, what weird shit do they do in there? It was like, that's the pagan church. Mm-hmm. You're like, so I just was like, I don't know, and I don't care, because it's called a church, and it had Unitarian. I was like, they're clearly something, so I'm not going to learn about it, because I don't like organized religion, not knowing that it was a questioning thing.
Yeah, I mean, they had lots of groups within the church also. So, like, Tuesday night, they would have, like, Catholic Unitarian group meeting or whatever, like, or witches or whatever. So if people wanted more in a more specific direction, they could find that with each other. But yeah, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I should be a Unitarian minister. And now I've gone into entertainment and done that for a while. And I'm like, I was wrong. I should have done that Unitarian minister thing.
There's always time.
Yeah. Well, the problem is also the ADHD, because I feel like I would be like, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Ooh, I got my sermon for this week where it's going to all be about time and how we experience it differently. And then it would be Saturday night and I'd be like, oh, fuck. I got it right. Can I show a movie? I'll show them a movie. Man, I had really good ideas. I wish I could just project them into their brains. Oh, well.
I do want to ask you this question, even if it's way off. How do you think the ways that we view love and relationships keep women from being their most free?
All of them. All of the ways that we think.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, yeah. Wow. What a softball, Becky.
I know, sorry.
You know that I think way too much about this. I think that our, again, fables, cultural fables about it are bad, and they've been dressed up so much to make them attractive. Like, they put bow ribbons and cute skirts on them to make them attractive to women, and we're like, yay, this is great. And then we miss the bones of it are horrifying.
Yeah.
And the expectations that they build are horrifying. I think especially from having grown up in the 90s, I think the 90s was maybe the darkest time for rom-coms.
Oh.
Maybe the early aughts. Because that whole span, it was so many, wow, I've just seen you on the street and I am engaged to this person, but you and me, we're in love now. Like,
yeah, there's something from the heavens about you.
Yeah.
We're connected in a way that only we know.
Yeah, which I think it established this level of the type of feeling you should have to be in a healthy relationship that is not healthy.
Not healthy.
It's really anxious and obsessive and
addictive.
Yeah, and addictive.
Oh, the good part.
Well, I mean, I think it's like a drug.
Yeah.
And we think, wow, if there's no drug, then I don't want it. But also, even worse, I would say, and kind of the reverse point, women were taught, give them a chance. We were taught there's a binary between the nice guy and the bad guy. And you're going to want the bad guy, but you should be with the nice guy. Instead of, that's not real.
Right.
It's just not real.
No.
And you should be with it. One of the things I really want to preach and try to preach is you should be fucking people that your butts and your guts want to fuck. And that's not what women were taught. That's weird that's something we have to learn as adults, because we're taught you should be fucking the nice guy. You don't need to be attracted to him.
Right.
You don't need to.
He's nice.
There doesn't
You
need
owe
to be any
him.
kind of magnetic pull. There will be for him, and that's important for him. He has to be attracted to you. Yeah. But really, you'd be shallow if you were waiting to be attracted to somebody.
Right.
And that's like fucked up. And so to support that, this other sneaky idea got in there that was like, well, if you are attracted to them, they're probably bad. He's the only people that girls are attracted to are bad guys.
Bad guys.
Because that's the only way that coin has another side, right? Yeah. It has to. I have a stand-up joke, which, God, I should have, if I tell you it now, that I'm really losing out on that Spotify 0.0000 cent if someone listened to the track, but I will.
Or yeah, do it, because they'll want to go back and hear it.
Yeah,
for real.
Okay. It's better with the audience. But yeah, about how I had, as an adult at some point, a middle-aged person, I realized that I have a new type. My new type is handsome men, because I'd never dated handsome men. I'd never gone for handsome men. I went for guys for the awkward, creative weirdos. And I was like, oh, wait, why? Why is that? And I was like, oh, because the handsome guys, you can't trust handsome guys because they're assholes. They cheat at ski competitions. They cheat on you, all that stuff. And I'm like, where did I learn all of that? And I was like, oh, because those awkward, creative weirdos grew up and made 8,000 movies about that.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, oh, it's not true. In my actual experience, handsome men, very cool with women. Their attitude seems to be, oh, women, yeah, they're great. They're so nice to me. Why wouldn't I like them? They make me brownies and they come to my swim meets. I like women.
Oh my God.
It's the awkward creative weirdos who are like, she wouldn't dance with me. I'll teach them all. And now I have like a real eye for that when I'm seeing a movie and I'm like, oh, bad handsome man. No reason for him to be evil. Like, or the handsomeness is doing 50% of the heavy lifting. Why? Like in these movies, they paint the picture that you can trash every aspect of your life, throw everything aside, focus only on this romantic relationship, and that means that you are winning. You did it. You are living the right way. That's what life is all about.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're ignoring everything else in your life because love.
Yeah. And this idea that, we're all like, we don't want to die alone. I've told you this before, like my antidote to that is Golden Girls.
Yeah.
When you think of it that way, Golden Girls, that doesn't sound so bad. You live in a house with a bunch of ladies who like cheesecake the same amount you do. You hang out.
You have a lanai.
You spend time together. You spend time on your own. You go on dates. What's the downside?
What's
the
the
only thing
downside
that's
of
missing?
that?
His dogs. That's it. In so many things in society and media and everything, women have been painted as a thing for a man to acquire, and love has been painted as a thing for a woman to acquire. So the man's trying to get a woman, and the woman's trying to get the man's love. Mm-hmm. And that feels so awful to me, so empty, and yet so much work, just draining, just deeply draining.
Yeah. And never equal.
I don't want to be gotten by somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to get something out of someone. I just want to be like high-fiving. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
Cheering each other on.
Yeah.
And maybe pinching each other's butts sometimes. But I have found that that's not really on the table generally.
Yeah.
And I think people are not aware of how entrenched a lot of that is.
Yeah. I don't think men are ever asked to look at that.
Well, and I think it's also gotten a little bit steeper because we all want to feel like we're doing a good job. We want to feel like we're doing a good job
We're good people.
Yeah, I'm a good person. I'm a good friend. I'm a good sister. I'm a good man, and I'm a good woman. And our idea of what that means, and I'm talking about like the most basic kind of heterosexual relationship.
Yeah.
The idea of what that means has gotten so nebulous. Like it used to be, you could have like a list and check things off and be like, did it. Yeah. I'm a good lady. I
waxed my legs.
Yeah, waxed my legs. I smiled pretty. I did the laundry and, said thank you, whatever the fuck. And now I think it's less clear. So I think there's a lot of pressure on partners to kind of provide that for each other. And a lot more insecurity.
Okay.
Rather than like having conversations and being like, hey, what do you need from me? Am I giving it to you in the way that you need? Blah, 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 blah. We'll figure it out as two human beings. It's men want this, so I should get this. Women want this. You should be happy with this.
Oh, you think that's
saying?
more now?
I think in a grasping at straws sort of way.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure. I feel like you know what? I haven't experienced that. I don't think. I'm going to have to chew on that. I was hoping that the answer was culture is getting more communicative, and so that, that's the answer. That like, oh no, we're actually communicating better in relationships. But I think it's just like, that might be, not mouthpiece, but like, that's just a buzzword. Lip service. God damn it. That was the word.
Mouthpiece, lip service. I get you.
Yay.
Yeah. I think that it's another thing that I believe that I think is not popular is that tolerance is great, and we have lost sight of that as a laudable value. In the same way moderates have been villainized. Tolerance, that if you tolerate something, then you are implicitly accepting something.
Right.
And I think that is not true. I think if you can tolerate something, then you can listen to hearing about it. You can think about it. You can open you can play with the thought and the concept. Mm-hmm. And that's, and obviously I don't want anybody to put themselves in harm's way or be around somebody who is horrible and hateful to them just in the name of tolerance. But like, if you are in a privileged position where you could exercise tolerance, great. I think the same thing in these one-on-one relationships and in communication like you're talking about. I think we need to be able to value I can tolerate you asking me for X, Y, and Z. I can tolerate hearing why that's important to you, rather than feeling like, how dare you ask me about that?
Right. How dare you?
How dare you say that to me? There's a lot of how dare you,
Right.
I think,
or
in the culture.
How dare that be something you need? Or how, yeah.
And I mean, like, in every direction.
Yeah.
Stuff that I might be like, hell no. Some of the stuff that people are, like, shocked that I have put up with. I dated this guy who, years ago, when I first came to LA, kept trying to choke me.
Oh.
I had never asked for that. And no, thank you, sir. And so I was like, hey, bud, no thanks. Anyway, let's keep smooching.
Right.
And, you know, we were dating for a while, and he kept trying to do it. And I was like, I was never like, fuck that guy, he's trying to murder me, until he did try to murder. No, he didn't try to murder. Until he was like a jerk to me in other ways. But as far as just like that, I'm like, so what? So that's the thing you're into? I can tolerate you wanting to choke me. I can also tolerate saying, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
That's not for me, my friend.
We have to be aware of the things we will and will not tolerate.
Yeah, but also
in a real honest way that we can communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was never like, how dare you?
But somebody doesn't know your mind.
Yeah, and I assume, I don't know if I'm right or not, probably a lot of people had been like, you know what I'd love you to do? Give me a little choke.
I don't mind a mild choke.
A lot of people don't. And to be that free with a makeout choke, I think you have to have learned this is a popular move.
Right. It's not
I don't think that you're like, now's when I go for it. Like, now's when she gets done. But yeah, so like things like that like we have to be able to tolerate. I don't even want to say take things less personally, because these are very personal things.
Right. We need to know ourselves enough to to
be like, hearing
be
it from you is not going to be, I'm not going to feel an implicit request for me to break myself.
Yeah.
Just hearing about something from you that might take bending from me to meet.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to add to that. I'm like,
well, I mean, and that's how people who do fit together and don't have to bend so far it hurts them will find each other.
Yeah.
By being able to be like that.
It's not just talking about like sex and kink stuff. It's like emotionally, what do you need and what can I offer you? And if you aren't being honest, that'll come out eventually.
Yeah. But I do also think that there is, I think especially with masculinity, there's like such a, and maybe that's because I just personally don't experience this with femininity, so maybe that's unfair, but I think there is a loss of a reliable model for this is what a real man is. I should do that. Whether it's dads that haven't been around as much for people, or just societal changes happening so fast, people feel like the things they thought they could trust, they can't trust. And so I think that leads to some weird hyper-masculine fetishization.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Like grasping for it rather than like owning how you feel.
Yeah, rather than like this, in the same way that like I think that there's a lot more men who date people who they think are impressive to other men than there are women who do that.
Okay.
Because it's like me being with this person paints the picture of the type of man that I want to be, rather than my
possession. It's that same like check. I have this. I have this. Yeah, image.
Rather than my butts and guts are into this person that I'm with.
Yeah.
So if you're in that position, if you're not with somebody who your butts and guts are into, you're not going to be that happy, and you're going to be resentful at somebody, very often that partner, or yourself.
Enter most
or your
marriages.
Parents.
Right. Yeah.
So I probably said a bunch of cancelable, vulnerable nonsense, but at the end of the day, I think we're gross little grubbies who need to be okay with being gross little squishy grubbies who want to be loved, and
I think you're right. I think that
tolerate each other.
let's go grub around.
Yeah, but you know what that doesn't support? Capitalism.
No,
you gotta have a winner and a loser.
Yeah,
you gotta crush somebody and take their money for your rent.
Take their money. Yeah. What is an organization or a podcast or a show that you think is doing really good work in this direction, in the empathy direction or the little grubby direction?
In this direction, you know what? Okay, There's a podcast called Away with Words, and it's about etymology and like vernacular. And I think that it's a great example of learning about people who are very different than you, completely judgment-free, because it's very inconsequential. Like, it doesn't matter if you say pop or Coke or soda, but hey, here's why these people say this and these people say that, and it's pleasant. And
That's great.
I don't understand being mad at someone thinking something different than you if it isn't about you or doesn't affect you in any way. And I think upping your ability to tolerate that, if it is something that you do, is helpful.
Yeah.
And I think that might be
That's
a nice
great.
little tiny way to start.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for chatting. Yes.
You're welcome.
This was so fun to talk to you.
I hope so.
And yes. If you'd like more information on postpartum psychosis and depression, please go to postpartum.net. There are additional links to mental health, safety, and reproductive resources in the show notes, as well as links to information mentioned in this show. You can listen to the full album of songs for the Ballad of Dena and Andrea on Spotify or Apple, wherever you find your music. Songs were written by me, Becky Poole, and produced by award-winning multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, and incredible music producer, Abby Posner. Find her at abbyposner.com. Theme also composed and played by Abby. Special thank yous to Evan Mosier for audio editing and mixing, to Andrew and the team at Voice Tracks West in Los Angeles, and to you for listening. Please join me in future episodes as we explore more themes around the Ballad of Dena and Andrea.